I felt it, his power. It's stronger than we thought. And when the costume finally takes control of him, we're all in trouble. There won't be any stopping it, which makes your plan of controlling the spawn now much more urgent. He's the catalyst that we've been looking for, which is why I needed to give him a reason to podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Spawnography. I'm one of your hosts, Pierce Lyden, pronouns they, them. Here with, as always,
George Marston, pronouns they, them, or she, her. How the heck in hell are you, Pierce?
pretty good. It's been a little bit since the last time we recorded just because life gets in the way, but we did both see the Odyssey this weekend. And,
Yeah, we sure did. So, okay, before we go further, give it your rating. We can do letter grades or 10 out of 10.
I mean, out of 10, it's a 10. Like, it's the most dudes rock movie that's ever rocked dudes.
I mean, I agree. It's definitely a 10 out of 10 for me. I could see if someone didn't love the story or whatever, but I feel like it's undeniable the level of like achievement of filmmaking that movie actually is. I mean, to even be able to make that movie shows that Christopher Nolan, whether you like his vision or not, is like a generational filmmaker.
Yeah, I mean, the run's been pretty unprecedented at this point.
Well, that's the thing is, I've been kind of lukewarm or uninterested in the last several of his movies. Hated Interstellar. Didn't see Dunkirk, though. I'll probably go back and watch that. Didn't see Tenet. Was mid on Oppenheimer. And the Odyssey, though.
Tenet fucking rules.
You told me that you really enjoyed that one in the theater.
Tenet slams.
I did see the Odyssey in IMAX, which was wonderful.
Nice. I'm seeing it. I saw it in standard. I know. But I'm seeing it in 70 millimeter on Tuesday. So
nice.
At the Village East, one of the best, which is where I saw Tenet also in 70 millimeter. And I was like, hell yeah, this thing whips. Yeah, saw it with, and here's the thing that was crazy. I agree with you, Christopher Nolan. I mean, obviously since Memento, just kind of on a unfuckwithable run, like even if you don't really like his movies, they're commercial hits.
You can see what he's doing.
Well, they're commercial hits and they're weird. Like, so there's something's connecting, and he's almost like allowed to be weird. As weird as like
in a maybe less problematic and controlling way. He kind of reminds me of Stanley Kubrick, where he is taking these big ideas and just trying to make movies about ideas and concepts and feelings and trying to communicate that through every frame. I couldn't look away from the Odyssey because every time I thought about I had to go to the bathroom at one point and I literally ran.
Do you use Run P?
Yeah. Yes, I
did.
App? What the fuck is that?
Oh, so don't say yes, I did if you don't know what I'm talking about. There's an app.
I thought you said something else. I'm sorry.
Okay. Run P is an app that you download, and right before your movie, you say what movie you're going to see, and the person who made the app has seen every movie and has identified the best parts to go. Yeah, and identifies the best parts to go pee where you won't miss anything, and it gives you like a time, like, oh, after a character says this, or like you can click the timer on your phone, so if your phone is nearby and it buzzes, you know, like, oh, okay, now I have like 3 minutes to run to the bathroom. And while you're, in the bathroom, you can be like, what's the thing that I'm missing for 3 minutes? Oh, it's an action scene. I won't have really missed plot.
Yeah. So, it was fine. I mean, what I was going to say is it was just everything was incredibly gorgeous. I loved so much. My favorite part was the Cyclops, which is my favorite part of the Odyssey as well.
Shout out Bill Irwin.
Yes, Mr. Noodle.
Yeah.
from Elmo's World, which I
Yeah.
love. I used to watch that with my baby sister. Anyway, um yeah, it was just incredible. Like the animatronic, the massive, like full size animatronic they used for the sleeping
Mm,
Cyclops, the
yeah.
compositing, the force perspective. There was obviously some digital stuff in there, but just the mood and tension of that also was just truly terrifying to me. I loved it.
I liked that Nolan said that since he was going to have a movie with monsters in it, he had to consult the King of Monsters, Guillermo del Toro,
Yes.
about like how to film it, what to do, how to make sure that these things feel very realized. If I have like
I
one,
heard a quote that he said from
sure,
Guillermo del Toro about that, which Nolan said, which was he said, "No monster is just a monster."
hmm, yeah,
And
which
that
is very
became the
clear in every del
philosophy.
Toro movie, and part of the reason that
Absolutely.
I really liked Frankenstein, even though
I
some
thought
people
the
were
f
lukewarm on it.
I thought, Victor's story was really good. I thought the monster story was underserved in the back half. I thought they needed more of that. That said, Jacob Elordi, incredible performance, absolutely deserved that
Oh yeah,
Oscar nomination. Just that was another movie where I was like, "Holy shit, this guy's, like, really fucking good at acting."
yeah,
That's how I feel every time I see Robert Pattinson, because I
yep.
always think of Twilight, and then I see him in anything, and I'm like, "Oh, no, he's fucking great."
I like that he just plays like weird little freaks now,
Yeah. Yep, he sure does, and it seems like he's having a lot of fun.
including Batman.
Yeah,
I like that he plays Batman like a weird little freak.
he does, and
That's
I like
that's
that
part of what's
too.
good about it.
Unfortunately, Andy Serkis is part of the Batman, and that
Well, you
dude
know,
is a legitimate Nazi.
at this point, it's unfortunate too because I was thinking about The Hunt for Gollum recently, having
Did you
not
see his
really.
quotes about that
I
recently?
did just see it. I did just
Where
see
he was
them, and I'm
like, "I
like,
think the Hobbit is a or the Shire is a very white place, and they don't want outsiders."
yikes,
That's why his movie has an all-white cast. He
yikes.
basically
Well,
said, "We have to secure a future for our people and Hobbit children," or whatever the fuck the words
the
are, and I'm
reality
not
is,
gonna.
though, that there's no way that I think people are pretty burned by the Hobbit movies and by Rings of Power, despite Amazon trying to convince us that people actually like that show. And
Always forget it even existed.
right, and listen, I'm somebody that likes all of the appendices of Lord of the Rings,
Sure.
but I no, I refuse to watch
It's
that show.
just
It looks
another
bad.
nostalgia grab, really. It's just like, we'll do Frodo one more time. That said, I don't know if Ian McKellen's gonna be like, he said, "What about the Shire? What?" Like,
Magneto himself.
yeah.
Yeah, I also, I mean, here's the thing too. The story of the hunt for Gollum is from the appendices and is like basically, well, why did they get the fellowship together? And it's because Gandalf sends Aragorn to go get Gollum. He gets him with the help of Thranduil, Lee Pace's elf,
Hmm.
and
Lee
then
Pace.
they capture Gollum to keep him from giving information that they think he might have to Sauron.
Yeah.
But then Gollum escapes anyway, and Aragorn goes, "Well, he got away. Have that Frodo meet me in Bree." That's it. That's the whole thing. That's the whole movie. That's not really a movie.
Hmm.
So sorry, pre-spoilers for a story that is essentially
It's gonna be
70
a
years
piece of
old.
shit. It's
So
gonna be a piece of shit. We all know it is. Andy Serkis fucking sucks at directing. And it is Andy Serkis directs Andy Serkis, and Andy Serkis is The Hunt for Gollum. Sounds like shit, especially when he's out here talking about the fucking white hobbit race and stuff.
well,
Even, I mean, look, it's inherent in Lord of the Rings in a way, because when it was written, Tolkien was pretty into eugenics, and that's why a lot of the portrayals of different Middle Earth races echo, kind of exoticized
yeah,
and racialized portrayals of, people from other nations. He also was in World War One, et cetera, et cetera. But later he disavowed that aspect of his life, and, came to understand that was not science.
yeah.
So anyway, back to the Odyssey. I loved every part of it. One of my other every part that I wanted to see felt really cool to me. I loved the sirens. I was actually glad they didn't try to make the sirens actually have a song. I thought that
Yeah,
Odysseus's monologue worked so much more effectively because nothing they could record could ever live up to that.
yeah. No, I agree. I think that the whole thing was just put together in such a way that I was just so captivated by
Mhm.
every frame. And like, listen, you watch enough Christopher Nolan movies and you're going to know, like, yeah, it's not going to go in order. We're going to kind of tell you the end
But it
before the
works so well
beginning.
that way in this movie.
And every single movie is kind of going to be about being a dad and having a family and not wanting to be away for 6 months on a film shoot and how that makes you sad, and how
Well,
and how the world we leave behind for future generations is important. And like, yeah. And you know what? We did that again and it was great.
I mean,
That's
look,
kind of how I
I
feel about
loved
it.
it, and the historicity of it is kind of irrelevant because there's very little. I don't need to go into like a whole monologue about the Bronze Age collapse and the actual Trojan War versus the mythical Trojan War, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
But two things I thought that it got very right were one, I mean, one of the big historical gripes that all the historians have, and I don't blame them, is everything would have been super colorful. Their armor would have been colorful. The buildings would
Oh,
have been
sure.
garishly
Uh,
colorful. I don't think that would have improved the movie
It's just the
because the
stylization
visual
of the film.
design was so gorgeous.
Agamemnon, though.
Aga fucking Memnon. Oh my god.
Shout out to the good
Fucking
Safdie brother.
yeah. And really good. Every performance great. Elliot Page fantastic. Guy I fucking love to see.
Yep.
Um anyway, the two things that I really thought it got right that are really important are that one, it really nailed the like deep undercurrent of like eldritch horror that kind
Mm,
of is the root of Greek mythology in a lot of ways. You know, Greek mythology is the mythology of gods and monsters more than anything else. And
totally.
I find that so deeply, beautifully, unctuously compelling. And I have since I was a little kid. So I thought they really nailed that primal spirit. Thought and they use Zendaya very well. Athena's dialogue being like, "Who doesn't understand fire? Who doesn't understand thunder?" Like that's just very visceral and real
Yeah.
in a way. And then also the other thing that they nailed is that the Odyssey is not an adventure; it is a horrid tragedy. It
Hmm.
is Odysseus, the name, which far predates Homer by many centuries, as does the character, the stories. Homer is kind of the one who D
He's
and
just the
D'd
guy
it.
that wrote it down.
Well, yeah, exactly. He told the tale that brought in like all the extra stuff from mythos and everything. But like anyway, the name Odysseus roughly originates from likely has roots in words that would make it mean one who wails or one who suffers.
Hmm.
So like the Odyssey is a journey of suffering, it's a tribulation. And I thought they nailed that. I thought they nailed the character development in a way that Nolan sometimes comes off as very sterile.
I've heard that criticism, and like I see it in that a lot of, I mean, listen, a lot of times when you have a guy like Christian Bale at the center of your films, like there is going to be that sterility, because I think that he kind of brings the certain level of stoicism to him, to his performances in general, that understand why Nolan is kind of like, oh, well, you can extrapolate on that, or you can kind of like dream on that because you can put yourself there, because he doesn't have enough of a personality for you not to. Um,
Well, I
that
think
said, I think that Damon is such a warm presence.
he's so good in the movie.
He's
That's the
that
part I was
like,
most skeptical about is that I'd just be like every time I saw him, I'd be thinking Matt Damon. But no, he really
yeah,
lost himself in it in a beautiful way. To me, that a lot of the time Nolan seems more focused on drama and escalation
mm,
through his movies. You know what I mean? Like when I say drama, I mean building attention and having a story that develops, sometimes at the cost of having characters kind of sound like mouthpieces in a
Hmm.
way,
Oh well,
which I
well,
think is what.
especially when they're just like explaining the rules. Half of
Right.
Inception is just like explaining the movie Inception,
Well,
which you know,
and the reason that movie works so well is the same reason the Odyssey works so well, is because around that he has a scaffolding of really thoughtful actors forming a very kind of perfectly rounded ensemble cast. In both of those movies, he has
yeah.
just a whole host of actors who can carry that emotion into a scene that's not necessarily in the script. The other thing is, moving straight into like actual just straight up fantasy, I feel like gave Nolan some room to forget about the rules a little bit and forget about, like, we had Zeus's law, we had that stuff, but there wasn't a scene where like Odysseus sat down and was like, now in order to get inside Troy, there wasn't like eh, there was
I
exposition, but it was storytelling accompanied by seeing the story unfold in a way that feels true to oral history, and like oral mythical history.
I think also that this being the most famous story
Yeah, I mean,
frees up Nolan to be like, you know this one. I don't have to tell you again.
well, and there's
You
also
know,
long stretches of the Odyssey that people don't know and don't
sure,
remember
sure,
that you
sure.
get a lot of
Well, and
freedom with.
also it's an
Well, like
endlessly
he combined.
remixable.
Well, yeah, exactly. He combined the Lotus Eaters and Calypso. Fine. If you're gonna get rid of one long sequence, the Lotus Eaters is probably the one to kind of cut, because it's just them laying around doing heroin. We've seen that. And but I thought that they hit all the big notes that people know. They had some fun with lesser known stories like the Lystragonians, which were the big
Hmm.
giants in armor in the story. They're just, quote, giant cannibals.
Yeah.
So there's another story this is part of the interesting, like, historicity versus like writing down of the Odyssey and Odysseus, is that sometime after Odysseus encountered the Lystragonians in the sort of very amorphous timeline of oral tradition of Greek mythology, Hercules then went and killed basically all of them, like sometime much later. So it's interesting. I love Greek myth. I love the Odyssey. I love antiquity. I had my gripes about how they portrayed when they actually referred to the age of bronze. I was like, okay.
I
Um,
mean, it's fine. It doesn't matter.
well, I was about to
It's
say
made
the
up.
only thing, the only people that will ever matter to are me and my roommate, who looked at each other and went, because like we're such fucking annoying pedantic history yunks. But at no point did that dampen my enjoyment of the film or the performances or the design. The score, I've actually been listening to the score quite a bit. It is
I haven't
just
really revisited it, but
so
yeah,
well. I of course read up on as much of like the production as I could, because
pretty
it was
intense. Yeah.
such an incredible feat, and like the practical again, the full size fucking Cyclops. I loved it. But one thing I read about the score is that the composer Ludwig Göransson
Hmm.
worked with music historians, like music archaeologists,
Yeah, didn't he like
to
build some
build a
instruments?
lyre and an aulos, which is a double flute, to the
Yeah.
closest specifications that you can make in modern times based
So
on what we
sick.
know. And then they just use those two things and like gongs and human voices, and it is like just so haunting. It gives
So
everything
cool.
such a unique feel. God, I could gush about that movie so much. And again, I just feel like even if you don't love the performances, or you're not like as captivated by the actual story, you know, I think you can appreciate the scope of it and some aspect of the artistry behind it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
It's like seeing a brilliant painting you don't connect with. Maybe you don't connect with it, but you can recognize the brilliance. I connected with it and I recognized the brilliance. One thing I liked that was a great touch to me, because I always wonder why this never happens, is in the scene where he's fighting all the suitors. Spoiler
Mhm.
alert for a fucking 5,000-year-old story or whatever. Um, not quite that old. Uh, there are some people who immediately are like, oh no, and they just like kneel down and are just like
Oh,
out of
yeah.
the way, just waiting. Because I mean, that's in the source material and whatever. But like, I just that is so funny to me because if I was like a fucking goon working a warehouse and
Well
Batman showed up, I just like put my gun down and quietly walk out the back. I just
Well, I mean, I think it's a funny visual, but at the same time, it is like the return of civility. Like they recognize that
right.
him
Oh
being
no, it's
gone.
thematically important.
Yeah,
It
it's so
just
good. It is a bit of a funny visual. When I noticed it the first time, I was like, "Huh?" And then I realized what was going on, and I was like, "Oh,
yeah.
they're all going to be kneeling soon."
Yeah, and I
That's why
mean, well,
also why he's like
yeah,
not really getting overrun.
I
Um,
don't want to go too deep into the themes and the way they express those because it really just came
we'll save
out.
that for audiography.
Man, I would do something. I would do mythography. I would do that so fast. Anyway, uh, yeah.
It,
So
what's interesting about it though is that we're doing this podcast about Spawn, and it kind of made me think. The Odyssey did make me think about Spawn in that, one of the things that's interesting about Al Simmons is that he is kind of like Odysseus in the
oh
sense
sure,
that he goes to war, he he dies, which is not what happens to Odysseus exactly, but he
well,
he
he goes
then
through a
goes
tribulation
multiple
that takes
tribulations with
him 20
supernatural
years to get
beings,
home.
right? And he's always just trying to get back, right? And like I was like,
I mean, it's a
man,
classic hero's tale.
no, to absolutely. But then I was thinking about Jim Downing, and I was thinking about what we were so disappointed in his introduction and sort of the follow up of that and the sort of end game plus into the
I was
200.
compelled by the introduction. It was what the rest of
Well, so
everything after that.
and I was
That first like small arc.
sure. Well, because at the very beginning of that 12 issue arc, it felt like, okay, we're maybe setting some things in motion in a similar way to the way that Nolan likes to kind of show you the end before the beginning, where it's like, ooh, maybe there's some questions here. There's some mystery. There's something that like we're going to get
There are
back to.
certainly some files.
Sure. And then by the end of that, it kind of just doesn't get anywhere. And the other thing I was really thinking about, and I was thinking even about, there are other movies like The Odyssey that have come out in our lifetime, Troy probably being the biggest one, and that movie's not very good.
Yeah, it kind of
And
sucks.
but I was thinking, and we're, you were just saying how you didn't want to get into the themes of The Odyssey because that's for a
Gladiator.
different podcast. I think
Well, I
Gladiator
just
works
didn't want
better.
to get
Oh,
into too much of the
no, no,
movie itself.
no, no,
Yeah.
I know. But so, in I was thinking then, what is Spawn missing with Jim Downing? And it is missing theme. Like ultimately, that's what it was missing. It was this kind of hollow facsimile of what the character has been,
Right, trying
because
to repeat Al Simmons without repeating Al Simmons.
right, it's like a cover band playing. I think we even said it's like a tribute band trying to play a new song in the style of the band they're attributing, like they're a
Right.
tribute to, and it's like, and it kind of wasn't working. But what's interesting then about this arc is that if this had been the beginning, I almost think it would have worked better
Well,
in
this
a
starts
sort
to
of like,
actually well, I agree. These two issues start to actually give the Jim Downing era kind of a mission statement about where things are actually at with heaven and hell. We finally get just a couple very effective lines about it. We see some of the usual tricks, Jim Downing getting manipulated by Clown, etc. And that's fine. It's interesting, it's evolving, but we also get to see this other side of Jim Downing that is totally different from Al Simmons, where he starts to gain this sort of celebrity status and it just starts escalating from there and it changes everything because again, we've talked so many times throughout these last several arcs since Jim Downing came in that he's sort of Al in reverse. He
yeah,
has his own face, he has his own body, he has all of that stuff. He just doesn't know who he is or where he came from. So he could go back, but he doesn't know how. Whereas Al knew exactly where Wanda and everyone were the entire time but he couldn't go back because he couldn't go back to being himself. So
Right.
you get it's a good twist on the idea that being a spawn is inherently lonely, and it is
Mm,
inherently a punishment that takes you away from life. It is not a reward of returning back to your life. That's
right.
the empty promise that you get. You get to go back. You get to go see your wife one more time. But
It's a monkey's paw.
exactly, you
Yeah.
get the worst version of the wish.
Yeah.
So he can see his wife, but his wife can't bear the sight of him.
Right. Well, with that,
Yeah, Pierce, you know what? Let's go ahead. Hit me with those credits.
all right, this is going to be Spawn number 201 in an arc that oh my god, in an arc that Blake Whitlow calls New Beginnings. This
Finally.
is yeah.
I
Todd
want to
McFarlane.
say 201, incredible. We're cracking the spine on volume 5 right now of the compendium.
Hell
So
yeah.
there you go.
Todd McFarlane Image Comics present New Beginnings Part 1, plot by Todd McFarlane and Will Carlton. Written by Will Carlton. Artist Szymon Kudranski. Colors by FCO Placencia. Lettering by Tom Warzakowski. Additional scripting by Jonathan David Goff. Cover artists Greg Capullo, Todd McFarlane, and Jay Photos. Editor Todd McFarlane. And a fun thing about the writer of this comic book. Do you know about Will Carlton? He's only written Spawn.
No, I was
You want to
just
know
looking
why?
him up. Yeah.
Want to know why? Because he is
Why?
Todd McFarlane.
Oh.
Todd
Well,
at the time
at least he didn't call himself Akira Yoshida. That's the big news we didn't talk about. Steve
that
Wacker
is
in
true.
as EIC, Marvel moving to the West Coast. Marvel moving to the West Coast feels like a little bit of a
sucks.
tragedy to me.
I hate it
But
personally, but
Wacker
also
being in
at the same
charge-
time, it is what it is. I love that Wacker's in charge. I got to meet him before. I met him when I was an intern, obviously, but when I was working at the museum, before he moved to Burbank to head Marvel Animation years ago, like 15 years ago, 12, 15 years, whatever it was. He came to a sleepover, and I saw his name like on the sort of list of guests, and I was like, there can't be like that many guys named Steve Wacker. And then I saw him when he came in, and I helped him get to the whale room where he was sleeping. And I said, hey, Mr. Wacker, I was a former Marvel intern. Just want to say, really big fan of your work, and congrats on the new gig. And he's like, he turns to his like 9-year-old son. He goes, see, this guy knows who I am. And his kid was like, whatever, Dad. But yeah, I mean, it's
that
certainly,
kid is 36 now.
It's certainly, he's like in college now, which is crazy. Yeah, it's a big sea change for the comics industry. It's weird that there's not going to be a big publisher here in New York when comics feel like such an inherently New York
Marvel is the
to
world
me.
out when they say the world outside your window, they mean the windows of Brooklyn.
Yeah,
you know what I mean,
Manhattan,
of
of course.
and Queens and the Bronx, and don't even forget Staten Island. I'm sorry, I'll never imitate your culture again. That is not true.
My culture is not a costume. Speaking of costumes, we catch up with Jim Downing.
Hold on, I forgot to ask. Sorry, before we get too into this, why was he fucking?
So he did a bunch of interviews as Will Carlton for Newsarama, like with Newsarama. Like they're like, oh, you're working with Todd really closely with Todd, and one of his quotes as Will Carlton is, "Yeah,
that's incredible.
I'm working with Todd about as closely as someone could work with another writer, like because you're the same person."
What year was this?
2011.
Wow, so I was already working for Newsarama. They're not full time, so
wow.
That's so fucking funny.
And I'm only like a year away from getting there.
I know.
So all right. So where we last left things in Spawn, Malbolgia's back. That's kind of the big thing. Malbolgia's back. He's taken over, and
he was hiding
body,
inside of the Freak.
And he's not super happy about Clown teaming up with the vampires and
Mr.
wanting
Ramus.
and wanting Spawn and the costume and all that. And Jim thinks that it's a good idea to team up with Clown because Clown has been manipulating him.
And he's
That's
been pretending that he and Violator are
are
different
different, yeah.
beings. Oh, speaking of
Which
Violator,
is very
John
funny.
Leguizamo.
Oh,
Love to
shout
see
out
John
John
Leguizamo in
Leguizamo.
the Odyssey.
Shout out
Wonderful
to Johnny
performance as
Legs.
well. Is that what they
Uh,
call him?
I mean,
Does he hang out with Joey Pants?
we got Johnny
They got a
Legs,
friend named
Joey Pants,
They got a friend
Tony
named Jimmy
Shirts,
and Jimmy Shoes.
Jimmy Two Shoes.
They could be Jimmy Two Shoes.
They
Anybody
call him
got
that
two
because he's
shoes?
got
Got a
two
fighting
shoes.
chance. Yeah.
Anyway,
but you won't believe where he wears them.
They're quite the outfit. Oh wow, no love for that one.
Quite the outfit? No, I thought it was good. You're good. It's good. You know what,
Anyway.
Pierce? I loved it.
Thanks.
I loved it so much.
Anyway, Jim, when we catch up with him, he is on the set of a TV show. This is the Carlene Phillips show. It's something of a Sally Jesse Raphael, Oprah kind
it's
of
one of those afternoon
thing.
talk shows that was big up until streaming. And actually still is. Maury Povich, all that garbage.
Yeah. And the idea here is that he doesn't know anything about himself, so they're going to put his name and his picture online. He's now having Mark Rosen work as his like manager, and that's how he's gotten on this TV show. At the end of the
previous arc, Rosen was like, "Oh, I can get him how much money if I get him on the show?" So he does convince him. One big thing we need to talk about right off the bat is Szymon Kudranski.
Yeah,
because the art is immediately a 180 shift from what we were seeing in 200 and previously from, Todd and some of the gang. This is honestly my favorite Szymon Kudranski stuff I've seen. And I think it's because it's a little less amorphous. There is a little more definition to the lines and the characters, and the atmosphere works. I mean, I think it looks really good, and it is a kind of a breath of fresh air from what we were seeing just before this, which was like very throwback.
I think the fact that we had like Liefeld swing in for an issue, and we had Eric Larson swing in for an issue. We had Kirkman drawing. Like the book was so all over the place, and I think that really lended to its lack of identity. Kudranski being here now, Kudranski to this point had done work on Sam and Twitch, had been part of the sort of Spawn, family for a bit now. I do think that as this story kind of progresses and Todd and Will Carlton have figured out maybe a path forward for the character, that Kudranski provides a foundation of tone that allows and also is a better, no offense to Will Portasio, but I think has a bit more modern sensibilities that keep the book from being mired in its sort of like 90s and even early 2000s reputation.
Well, if you look back to those early issues of the Jim Downing era, when Todd was doing digital inking in particular, those looked great. They looked great, and it was some of Will Portasio's best stuff. And there was just a point where it started devolving more and more, and it felt like they got into that deadline crunch again.
Well, I think the other
something out.
But I think the other
and then the Image United of it all with 200.
Yeah, but I think the other part of it is that Jim hasn't had his own visual identity. It was always kind of coasting off of riding the coattails of the visual identity of what Spawn had been, and Spawn
he
had
the
been
like spikes and shit at first. He had all that. It was like growing wildly, and now they have it kind of just back to like peak Al Simmons looking.
Well, I think that I'm mostly speaking on a large, like kind of more macro scale, like the book as a whole. The book as a whole just kind of didn't have its own identity, much like Jim doesn't have his own identity, right? And so it was borrowed, much like Spawn is borrowed, right? And so now, or the symbiote is borrowed, right? And so,
Right.
listen, that's me almost trying to no prize what the hell we read for 16 issues. But I do think that Kudranski, while he's not my favorite artist by a long shot, acquits himself pretty well here. And it's because there's a lot of consistency in the art here. And he's actually pretty decent at the little bits of acting in the ways that
Hmm.
just wasn't able to handle.
Yeah.
There's a lot of subtle movements. There's extra panels. There's not a lot of time passing here, right? That's what we're supposed to understand is that it's a TV show. So this is before the commercial break. You know, there's
There,
a
to
lot.
wit, there is a
Yeah,
lot of dialogue through these first couple pages, and a lot of it is recapping, which, sure, we just did 200, which was almost irrelevant to this.
yeah,
And you're probably going to get some readers who are like, "Oh, new Spawn. What's this all about? Bulge's back." So whatever. I get it. But it does make for some crowded panels. I will also say Will Carlton writes a lot like Brian Michael Bendis. There is a very like Bendis-y kind of back and forth patter feel to a lot of this dialogue. Some of it is a little too much, but there's a lot of the like conversational kind of structure. Also, a lot of storytelling across double page spreads, which is a
yeah.
very Bendis thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So Carlene Phillips has Jim on, and they're there to investigate all these things he's been at the center of the things that we've read about in
The
the last 16.
miracles, the ways he's
Yeah,
healed people.
he's healed people. He's been at the center of a building falling, and he wasn't hurt. He flew away, and people saw him, but suddenly all the videos of it don't exist anymore. But there are eyewitness accounts. What can he tell the viewing audience? And he's like, I don't really know. And she's like, maybe you know you gave a second chance to those might not have otherwise have had one. You changed their lives. you know you know people need to help you. Call 1-800-JOHN-DOE if you know who this man is. Give him some sense of peace in his life. To he's done so much for all of you. What can you do for him? And she asks him to describe his private life in one word, and he says dishonest.
Which kind of, yeah. I mean, I think that he probably feels a level of dishonesty in the way he's portrayed as like this healer. He explains that he's not consciously doing this. He doesn't know how it's happening. He doesn't know why. He's not like doing laying on of hands and faith healing people. They just happen to be healed by his presence.
Right.
Now, we've had some kind of, we know that God and, the devils and all that stuff are interested in him. We learned a few things about him that I think have kind of fallen by the wayside now because we keep not referring back to them at all. And then some places have even contradicted it. Like,
Like what?
we learned he was the leader of the gang and
Oh
he made
yeah.
himself patient 47 and all this stuff.
None of
And
that stuff
since
seems to
then,
matter yet, I guess.
he hasn't, it hasn't come up again. Well, he fought, the other villain, the guy in
Ortego.
green. Well,
Oh
that
right.
was
Yeah, patient 46.
patient 46. Yes. That guy was like, they experimented on you too. And Jim Downing knows that now, but we have kind of lost the thread of that. And it's going back to Jim Downing doesn't have that answer in a way.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't believe it. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to
Yeah.
say.
So we cut to we go into the commercial break from his description of his private life to 3 hours earlier at 6:45 a.m. He's leaving the house. He's now staying with Mark because Mark offered him a place to stay. He wanted to leave Sarah because he didn't want to put her in more danger. And Mark says, "Come to my house, stay with me. I'll be your manager. We'll figure this out." This is Mark's big break essentially. And he calls a cab or hails a cab. Only takes 20 minutes. It's 6:45 in the morning, which okay. And he thinks the cab's going to stop, but it doesn't. It goes by, but a cop pulls up and is like, kind of hassling him.
Yeah, so the cop pulls up and the guy's like, "Hey, aren't you that miracle worker? Let me give you a ride." And Jim loves cops. As he said in the previous conversation, he was like, "The real heroes are the police and the firefighters and the military." Very, middle
I
America.
mean, yeah.
Anyway, he gets in with the cop, and the cop is like, you know, it was good that you came in and talked to the cops the other day. He's kind of buttering him up.
Yeah.
And he's
And
asking him
also
about.
recapping some stuff too for readers, like, oh, the villain attack, like that was, pretty classy what you did the other day, all this stuff.
But then he pulls over and, he kind of makes a remark that he says, we just happen to be in, what's his name? Frankie Holtzman. He's like, we're in Frankie Holtzman's neighborhood. Frankie Holtzman had hassled Jim. It's all a ruse to get Jim into the building.
Basically we realized that like the cop is in on something, like he knows something, and he already knew it's more than him just knowing Jim from public kind of notoriety.
So who should show up but Mr. Ramus, the vampire who we've met before, who's kind of been coerced into working with Clown uh, as two of the new Unholy Trinity that they're trying to bring in Spawn for, so that they can be the new lords of hell and earth and heaven and everything. He comes in and says he has a briefcase full of files, always comes back to files, that will show Jim Downing everything about his past that he doesn't know. But if Jim wants the files, he has to work for Mr. Ramus. Jim is like, why? Ramus is like, look, and here's where I liked what we actually had a little bit of explanation, just a little bit of setup, where he says heaven and hell have splintered into 1,000 different factions, all on different sides, some demons that want to save humanity, angels that want to overthrow God. The rules are out the window. That's an interesting thing for the Jim Downing era, especially with
Yeah.
the return of Malbolgia.
Yeah.
There's that takes it beyond. At least there's some evolution there from when Al Simmons, when it was just heaven and hell trying to capture Spawn and have him be their agent or whatever, So he Spawn tries to grab the case. He tries to strangle Mr. Ramus, and first name Igno. But he just melds into the shadows and disappears. And the cop starts taunting him. He's like, "You'll learn to melt into the shadows too." He says to Spawn, I intend to control you, you and your powers, because together we can defeat those who made us what we've become today. Monsters. We've become monsters. I just love that little tidbit.
Yeah.
Um,
And he also says, welcome Mr. Downing to a life of servitude. To this point, Jim is unclear on what his job is. So
well, he also
he
hasn't had a master the way that Spawn did in
right.
Malbolgia. Al did, at least in Malbolgia, where he had this mission, and Malbolgia would constantly be like, "Do your fucking job, Al."
Yeah.
But Jim doesn't
And
have that.
yeah, so Ramus disappears, and the cop taunts Spawn. Spawn kills him.
Yeah, he's well. He says, like he says, Spawn says, "Where'd he go?" And the cop says, "Let's see. I think there's something in my eye," and he gives him the finger, which is such a like little stinker thing to do.
Yeah.
Um,
We cut back to the Carlene Phillips show, and she's talking to Jim during the commercial break, saying like, "Oh, you're really choking people up out there. I think it's going great. Do you need a drink or food, or we've got a 6 minute break."
and
And they haven't gotten a single phone call, and
no one
it's
knows anything
crazy.
about
Nobody
Jim.
knows anything
Yeah.
about him. And Mark is like, "Hey, you're doing a great job." Producer said that Carlene can be a bit difficult, but just go with the flow. And you
Carlene says
know,
she's going to Plan
basically,
B since they didn't get any phone
right.
calls.
Right, which like Jim is immediately suspect of. He's like, "What does that mean?" Like, and Mark's like, "Listen, you need money. You don't want to stay in my apartment forever, so this is what we got to do. Just
Yeah, he says,
hang in
just don't
there.
let her
It's fine."
catch you off guard.
Yeah.
So this woman and her disabled son come out, and she's wheeling her son out in a wheelchair. We learn that not only does her son have a progressive form of ALS that is like a case that is somehow unique to him because he developed it at an early age instead of as he got older. And his not only that, but his mom also has cancer, and she kind of explains that everybody gave up on him except for her. She's been teaching him, science and math and all kinds of stuff, just trying to, because she knows he's alive in there, which, I mean, that's very human. It's very nice that there's a portrayal of someone who loves this person. She does ask for a miracle and ask Jim to cure her and give him a shot at life outside of ALS. And Jim just is kind of caught off guard. We cut back to him with the cop, and he's kind of saying, like, I'll kill you. And the cop is like, well, you can't kill me that way. You can't kill me like this. You can only kill me by beheading me because I'm a fucking vampire. And so he's like, but please, by all means, go ahead and do it, because when you do that, you'll grow stronger. And that's what the boss needs. You need to be stronger. So he's willing to sacrifice himself, which,
Yeah.
more cops should be like that.
And Spawn keeps asking what his boss's name is, and the vampire just taunts him and says, "I wrote it down and swallowed it." So you got to rip my head off, and he
Which
says,
is
"I'm done
very
talking."
funny to me
I
that
mean,
he's just
it's
like, rip my head off, bitch. It's the most like bratty sub shit.
this is actually this whole sequence. This is where I really like Kudranski. I think he's really good at
Yeah.
these scenes. I think this whole book is so shrouded in darkness, and I
Thank
think it
you. Thank
really.
goodness.
I
I think
know.
that's part of what stands out again.
Yeah, I think it really works for the book. But he rips the guy's head off, and he finds the paper, and it says, "His name is Blood, our vampire lord." I like this transition that we get out of Spawn holding the cop's head to back to Jim on the set of this TV show, reaching his hand
Mhm.
out we go from darkness to light.
The little inset panels are very much very Capullo-esque, which I
Mhm.
think is a nice carryover for the visual language of Spawn. Again, feels like something Kudransky has studied. He went
Yep.
back and likely looked at what had come before. And I think that's why a lot of this works, is because there is, look at the thing where the cop is shooting Spawn in the head. He's like, you can't kill me like that any more than I can kill you like this, and shoots him. That's a very Todd McFarlane kind of layout and panel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you get these insets of the cop's mouth, and then his eyes as Spawn actually takes his head. You get the inset panel of his mouth zooming back out to his head transitioning into uh, Jim on the set of the show. It's really beautiful storytelling, honestly, and it's clear and concise while also being kind of moody and messy and visceral
Yeah.
in a good way.
There's also a
Uh,
little bit here with Jim on the set with the kid, and we get like a little creation of Adam moment with Jim's
yeah,
hand, kind of implying this sort of
divine.
heavenly divine power. It's good. It's the kind of thing that it's like, if you don't know what you're looking at, maybe you don't know what you're looking at, but then again, it's such a famous reference, much like the Odyssey, right?
But
That
you
like you're
also don't
kind of
even
just going to get it.
need to know
You don't
that.
need it.
It's the way his hand is positioned, reaching out to the kid, and
Yeah.
he just reaches out and touches him on the forehead. I love that this is done without dialogue,
Yeah, it's great.
because you don't get many of those pages in Spawn. I understand why. There's a philosophy, especially for Todd McFarlane, that if you pay to read a comic, you should be able to read the comic. But here it is very impactful and very dramatic
You
to
can almost
not have
hear
that.
the score swelling, like
And
it's
there's
that
just
kind
like,
of moment.
there's that pin drop silence in the
Yeah.
audience where everyone's just waiting. And there's this moment where everybody's just waiting to see what happens. We zoom in on the kid's face, and suddenly he speaks and he says, "Mommy?" And his mom just loses it. I love the emotion of that. I feel like it is very likely that Simon Kudranski is using some photo reference
Yeah.
here, which I personally, in my art, using photo reference and like posing figures and stuff like that has helped me a lot. So I like it. I like when an artist can use that effectively rather than making it look like have it be original photo reference rather than like tracing, Jessica Alba or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, one of the heads is Todd, right?
Yes, in the bottom left, I think so. Certainly looks like him. But yes, we also get this moment where it's just the lights focusing on him. We get the inset of everyone in the audience cheering and laughing with delight, and he's literally basking in
The
the
glow.
light, the
Yeah.
glow of the studio lights. It's very interesting. I
It's
still
more
think
it's kind of more theme and metaphor than we got in the last 16 issues
it
in
also
one
just
issue.
immediately separates. It's a huge line of demarcation between Al and
Yeah.
Jim. Jim is now famous. Jim is now
Yeah.
helping people in the way that Al was a killer. Jim is now seeming to be a healer.
Yeah.
And I, again, have not read ahead, have not read the wikis or whatever because I choose not to. I want to learn this like a reader would. Excuse me. I feel like there's going to be a big price for all this.
Yeah.
I feel like nothing comes this easy in Spawn. None of this would happen in a Spawn comic if there weren't going to be the twist rug pull. And I have some theories about it, but I feel like they're actually building a lot more drama into this now. And if this goes where one of the ways I think it could, it'll really bring a level of tragedy to Jim that he hasn't actually had that much yet. Like,
Yeah.
Al was a tragic character from the get-go. We knew what he lost. We knew how he was tricked and what he was trying to get back. Jim, we don't have that. He doesn't have that desperation aside from like
Well, and I think that that's what made him so hard to kind of relate to in those last 16 issues as we were trying to like get a grasp on the book. It's like, well, who is this guy that I'm supposed to be? Like, are the questions about him even are they even compelling enough for me to follow him, or are just the facts of his life that he doesn't know yet compelling enough for me to follow them? And the answer to this point has kind of been no. But now this kind of setup, we'll get into final thoughts later, but
there's
uh,
something new happening.
finally, yeah. There's one
And it's
more
not
little
like the Omega Spawn or whatever.
Yeah. There's one more little scene here. It says later that night, and it's Mark Rosen, and he's frustrated because his glasses, like, they don't work.
He's
He's
getting a
blurry every
headache.
time. And but then he realizes that if he takes his glasses off, he can see perfectly. And he didn't realize that Al, I keep calling him Al, that Jim even healed his poor sight.
Right.
And we end with him not needing glasses anymore.
Good for Mark. He really needs a win.
We
And
definitely
on
needed
that
him to
note,
look different than other characters. But the glasses were helping, so I I don't know what's going to happen now.
yeah. Well, on that note, Pierce, why don't you go and hit me with those credits for Spawn 202?
All right, Todd McFarlane Image Comics present New Beginnings Part 2, Spawn number 202. Plot by Todd McFarlane and Will Carlton. Written by Will Carlton. Artist Szymon Kudranski. Colors by FCO Placencia. And lettering by Tom Warzikowski. This cover is by Will Sportasio. Pretty good one.
Do you think Will and Carlton, like from the Fresh Prince?
Yeah, I think that's what it is, 100%.
Nice.
What's funny?
Hey, S tier show.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And so this issue is right in we're picking up immediately after that happened on the show.
In media res, essentially, yeah. Well, and Jim is in Mark's apartment, and Mark is like, look at all these calls I'm getting. The New York Times, so many different people want to talk to you and meet you. And we see as he's leaving the studio, everybody's like, let me shake your hand. My mother is sick. Let me contact you. People are begging him for help, which
Yeah.
that is the real tragedy of it, is that no matter what he does, he can never help everyone.
Right.
You know?
And I love this panel of him looking at his hands in the aftermath of this, with this like glow, this like heavenly glow. But it also too, it's a return of a color that we've not really liked in the past. That kind of like sickly, kind of piss yellow. It's just it's like turned up though in a way.
There's a little more saturation in the orange
Yeah.
and the yellow, so it has that sort of like footlight glow. and that sort of phosphorescent glow that like studio lights have. And speaking of studios, the studio exec comes in, gives Jim his payment, and he says, we have a couple slots opening and we'd like to talk about you having your own show. Just consider it.
Dr.
Which,
Downing.
yeah, I mean, the I got my own show and it's actually a nightmare is one of my favorite plots. I mean, The Substance,
True.
classic, great. That's a recommendation right there. One of my favorite movies.
Great movie.
Anyway, yeah, he's kind of just basking in this glow, and Mark is like, he's the biggest executive in the city. Aren't you listening? And Jim is not listening. He's admiring his own shit. The thing I like here also in this visual continuity is we go from Jim looking down at his hands with this glow, almost a halo around him.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go to an absolutely fucking gorgeous page,
Gorgeously rendered page.
breathtaking
Wow.
page of Twitch sitting in Sam's hospital room because Sam had a heart attack. The light coming in through the window mimics the halo around Jim. We understand that there is an imperative here, which is that Sam is sick. Twitch is watching over him, and Sam wakes up. And there is this, we go from this beautiful splash page with no text. It sells every single emotion you could feel in this moment. Truly a masterful, even above and beyond a comic page, a masterful drawing.
Yeah. One of the things I really like about Kudranski's use of shadow is that like Sam is so sick that he almost seems to be melting. Like the shadows are just so deep on him, and like
he almost
just
looks
doesn't.
like fucking Michael Myers when you see his
he
face.
just doesn't
like,
look like himself, and it feels sickly. Shout out to Placencia's colors as well across these two issues.
Placencia works so well with Kudranski here.
Absolutely.
It's just very conceptual and such a limited palette that works so well with Placencia's kind of like really muted tones. Just gorgeous art, and I'm looking at these panels and loving it more and more because we go from that moment of just like absolute hope and the edge of both hope and despair of watching Sam in the hospital bed waking up to this very staccato and claustrophobic set of panels focusing on just like the little beats of their hands and their faces as Twitch is trying to comfort his friend, and Sam is talking about how he's just feeling worse and worse. He's feeling sicker and sicker, and it's just not getting better. And if we go way back, to when Terry was dying, we can recall that I believe it was Todd's father-in-law who was going through cancer and passed away, and he had spent a lot of time in the hospital with him. You can see the true emotion that he would have felt coming through this sequence of Sam in the hospital. Again, that edge of hope and despair. And as Twitch leaves the room, he says, you need to hang in there until I figure out how to undo this. Something weird happened. We know what happened is that Twitch encountered Clown, and Clown was like, you are part of this now, whether you like it or not. And to prove it to you, I can show you what I can do to your friends. Basically causes Sam's heart attack. Sam's not getting better.
This is also interesting too, because when Al was spawned, Twitch really needed him.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Sam was very resistant.
Well, but one of the things that we've said a few times is like, oh, Jim is a healer and that's not who Al was. But Al had healed a few times. That was part of his power set. He just didn't really utilize it all that often. And it wasn't happening unless he wanted it to. Jim just seems to happen. If you're near him, you get healed. Al had to very specifically go out of his way, almost seemingly to like, work against his nature in order to do it.
He couldn't fix Granny Blake entirely. He could only give her like moment of joy with her sight and her husband and everything. He couldn't do it permanently. I do want to call out one last thing on the page is when Twitch walks out and you still see that beautiful shaft of light kind of coming in on Sam. It just is a ray of hope, and you know what the ray of hope is.
Yeah.
It's Jim. There's some clunky dialogue in some of these pages.
I mean, part of
There's
that
some,
is that we're doing the hospital thing, right? We're doing the procedural kind of hospital thing where
yes. Well, and
Sam and
again, it's
Twitch are
that very
talking about how
Bendis-y
Sam's,
conversational.
which Kudranski would have been familiar with from the work on Sam and Twitch, so I think it does work.
Exactly.
I think that Kudranski's bringing a level of pacing to the panels, the paneling through the pages that is allowing Todd to work in that style of dialogue
And
more
it
than
keeps up the
Portasio
energy.
was able to. Yeah, exactly. And so, to that point, Twitch starts talking to one of the doctors, and he's like, he's going to be okay, right? And or no, sorry,
He's
he's not talking to one of the doctors. He's talking to Detective or Agent Rowand.
from Langley. And
Yeah,
Rowan saying the thing that Sam wasn't getting through his head is there's weird shit going on where I'm from. So we are definitely partnering up on this. And
right.
Twitch seems to be open to that because he just needs to help Sam. Meanwhile, he talks to Sam's doctor and the doctor says some of his organs have begun to slowly shut down. The doctor says there's about a 2-week window and then his odds of survival will get slim. Meanwhile, we get this Nurse Ratched type character kind of carrying a syringe back into Sam's room. And the doctor says, we're giving him 10 cc's of morphine to fight the pain. Sam's laying there, and we get this deeply ominous.
Very cool.
I This is such a minor story thing, such a minor artistic visual thing that I think is just so beautiful and so intentional. Is when we see her first come up on Sam, that light, that shaft of light from the
Hmm.
window is still all over Sam. It's casting bars through the blinds over Sam, and it looks it's the one hopeful element of the picture, of the panel. We go to the inset of her face as she says, "We warned your partner. Now you'll pay the price for his mistake." Those bars of light become bars of shadow on her
Hmm.
face, and it's just that subtle transition of like, oh, this has made her look infinitely more menacing, whereas the same lighting in another context made it look very hopeful. That is beautiful visual storytelling.
Yeah, absolutely. She's also pumping him full of 700 cc's of morphine, not
Is that a
100.
lot?
Yes. And so we cut back to Mark Rosen, who's excited that he can see again, and his girlfriend is also excited, so
His
excited that she
poor
wants to
beleaguered girlfriend.
that she wants to jump his bones.
She says we
And
should have naked time. And he's like, maybe later. I've got to do dumb shit. Let me tell you, look, I don't mean to sound like John Bernthal, but let me tell you something, okay? If your partner is like, let's fuck, and you're not like, there are reasons you wouldn't want to, but if you're in this position, you shouldn't go, no, I have to keep working. That's stupid to do.
yeah. And to the point where she takes her top off in front of him and he says impressive, which is just really it's
Hey,
very, very
great.
funny. But
He says
he
impressive, but come on, Susan. Now I want to be clear. You don't have to do anything with your
is
partner
this the
that you
first time
don't
we get
want
her
to.
name? I think so.
Yes. Oh my God. And you know
Yeah.
what? Good for her. That's all I have to
So
say. Good
anyway,
for her.
she gets upset with him for turning her down,
She's like, I'll just go watch some fucking TV.
and meanwhile we cut over to Jim and he's on the phone with Sarah and she's like, he's apologizing for kind of treating her the way that he did and leaving the way he did, but she's very overwhelmed about what he did and she forgives him and she's sad that nobody called in to give him any
Yeah, it's like a moment of
inklings about who
reconciliation between them.
yeah about who he is, and so they hang up and who walks by the door but
Mark's fully nude girlfriend. Now, I don't think she was just walking by. I want to be clear. Uh but she shows up and she says, we get this inset of like his face, her lips, his fucking incredible muscles, her eye catching his a glimpse of him, and she opens his door and says, Jim. And we get this beautiful, like Wally Wood, almost like just such a simple storytelling sequence of 4 panels of the door, the light on the door getting, slimmer as
Yeah.
the door closes. And then she just says, I'll make you feel wanted. Again,
Nice.
good for her. Her boyfriend's trash. Dump his ass. Meanwhile, Jim Downing, not afraid to recognize that he does not need to conform to the morality of God or man.
And the
And
next day,
also that
he
Mark
and
Rosen's the worst boyfriend on earth. I hate
yeah,
Mark Rosen.
he also doesn't
And
seem
I'm
to be the
glad his
best
girlfriend
manager
cheated on
either.
him.
But
Mm-mm.
anyway, he's
No.
in a good. The next day, Jim and Mark are together, and
Mark is like,
Mark.
thanks for talking to my girlfriend last night. She's in a much better mood today. She says you can stay as long as you want. She likes the company. And Jim is like, oh, yeah, cool. Thanks, man. Which, that's how you got to play it. Look, if you're going to be someone's live-in cuck, that's how you got to play it. So, yeah.
We cut to a
He's like,
limousine.
well, Mark asks, they're in a limo, and Mark asks for a percentage of his money.
Oh, right. And basically he just says like, that'll make me look really good to Susan, and that's when he's like, you can stay for as long as you like. We cut to they're in a cab. We cut to a limousine, and it is Mr. Ramus once again,
AKA, as we know now, is also
his
Blood.
blood, has returned home, and his colleagues here are saying that he has a meeting starting in 20 minutes. Gentlemen be in the office shortly, and we realize that
his footman, basically.
we realize that Jim and Mark are going to see him because the guy that kind of runs so much of everything is this guy. And when they get, I like the changing color here. Everything gets more red. He's a
Because it's
vampire.
more
It works.
opulent.
That
They're
too.
basically in like Bruce Wayne's gallery from the start of the 1989 Batman movie. Okay, look at these panels of Mark without glasses. Tell me that's not fucking DJ Qualls from Road Trip.
It's kind of Conor Oberst.
A little bit. He's also a little bit what's his name? Bob Denver, aka Gilligan, or more aptly here, Maynard G. Krebs, who is Dobie Gillis's beatnik friend from The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis, a show I used to watch on Nick at Night. Yeah, and they're just kind of looking at his stuff and marveling over it. Mark breaks something and nobody seems to give a shit. This security guy, who is the most like Goomba looking dude. Like, this is the most like guy who is too drunk next to you at the baseball game looking motherfucker I've ever seen. This dude's profile picture is him wearing those sunglasses in the reflection of his truck's rearview mirror.
He probably has a really strong feeling about Mayor Mamdani.
I bet it's really
forgetting
positive.
Little Italy on the ethnic neighborhoods or immigrant neighborhoods map, rather. Did you see that?
No, I don't pay attention to everything Zoran Mamdani does.
That's weird. You should. Politicians are awesome. No, at this city study, this map came out that was compiling like immigrant neighborhoods throughout the 5 boroughs, and like Little Italy's not on there. And it was everybody's like, look at Mamdani, he doesn't care about the Italians. And the reality is that it was from a thing done between 2022 and 2025. So Eric Adams created this thing. It just came out now.
Eric Adams is a true psychopath motherfucker.
He's a true Albanian.
Hell yeah.
He had a citizenship.
Good for him. Good for him. He's going to be the mayor of Albania.
Probably. I'll say this. This scene, the panels, like, I don't think that this is the most clear. I get it.
I think the shift in color kind of makes
has
it a
not
little
worked for
muddy.
it as well. But overall, they're waiting for Mr. Ramus so that they can meet. He runs a bunch of these multinational corporations, and
he's got some charities and all that. So he's a typical, rich person. And Jim and Mark walk into the office, and Jim sees Mr. Ramis and recognizes him as, Blood, and is like, "We're getting out of here, Mark." And Mark is like, "What? Are you serious?" Long story short, Blood sends Mark outside and talks to Jim. Jim turns into Spawn. I love how Blood uh basically looks like Dracula now. Like his
Yeah.
skin gets this
He
sort of
looks
silver
like if
blue
Mr.
pallor.
Bean was Dracula.
Ugh.
Looks like
That other
Mr.
guy
Bean
sucks.
kinda.
He kind of does. I mean, he looks more like Bela Lugosi to me.
Sure.
Uh,
Love
but
this Spawn.
yes, great Spawn here, doing a great hand job. Kudranski does give great hands. Good hand stuff. And Spawn's just like, "Shut up. Where's the case?" And the guy's like, "Your transformations are coming much easier. Excellent." Kind of taunting him. And he's like, "Look up there. You see the security camera? If you kill me, everyone will know that Jim Downing, the Miracle Man, is Spawn and that you killed me." Now, there's some things wrong with that, which is that I bet this guy's not on film. Maybe he is. The rules for vampires seem a little different here.
Mhm.
And then Spawn, uh, Jim blacked out everyone's phones and video cameras when he flew away. So what makes this guy think it's going to capture him on film when he turns to Spawn? We don't know. He taunts him again and he says, "You like the fame they're giving you, don't you?" We get our three talking heads. We get the CNR person talking about, FEMA being on hand for the building collapse, and that there are conflicting reports about what happened. We
Oh,
get
and we find out that patient 46 did not die,
right.
which is
Um,
kind of important seemingly.
mhm. And I we get our canonically gay uh news anchor for Entertainment, I think is what he's usually
Yeah, but
billed at.
he doesn't have
No.
a network this time. But he's also just
Um,
reporting the news seemingly, and
yeah.
then talking
Well, you
about the
see,
Carly and
he
Phil,
gives
and
a
then he
dig to Spawn's outfit, or to
yeah,
Jim's outfit, which really, to me, when I read that, he says, "Though his wardrobe has yet to recover," which I
boy oh
definitely read
boy,
as John Waters.
wah, wah. Yeah, that's pretty funny. But and then he comments on the Carly and Phillips show, so a little bit of recap.
And then we get the guy from Live
Well, no, he's from Fox News.
news.com. Yeah, it kind of is blurred. He says, "What a crock." And it's very funny because this dude's like, "These stupid liberal hippies." And then he's like, basically just saying, like, "Why don't they give everybody a job? What about that? Why are you acting like this Miracle Man's the second coming?" Not very conservative, but it is a weird juxtaposition. Spawn back in Mr. Ramis's office is just like,
By the way, why
uh
does that scene happen? Why does that happen right there?
I don't know, needed a page.
Okay.
And Todd probably said throw it in somewhere
Mm,
because they do Marvel style.
sure.
Um Mr. Ramis is taunting Jim that he's also a vampire, you see. He's sensitive to light, all these other things. He has powers. And we kind of know that's bullshit. It's just him being manipulative and trying to get Spawn to work for him more. Spawn's like, "Fuck you," throws him through the window, or like throws him at the window. Uh,
Outside,
the
Mark
shit
Rosen
goes hearing.
hears what's going on, and the security guard's like, "I don't hear anything." He's like,
"I
"This
don't hear a
is really
thing."
weird."
Yeah, and Mark's like, "This is nuts." So he's like, "Think about when you transform. It's always nightfall. I see you're still skeptical." And he opens the windows and he's like me, you can tolerate, indirect sunlight, but this hurts. It's trickery. And we learn that when Clown appears in a minute. He's like, "Look, I know you don't care about any of this, but I did take the briefcase that has all the info you want." He says, "If you want it, take it, but there's a catch." He says he's only put one document in there, one file that will be the first clue to who Jim Downing is. And the rest will come as he does more servitude for blood, for Mr. Ramus Blood, or Blood Ramus, or whatever. And he says, "Now get up and get out of my sight." He gives Jim the briefcase, and Jim walks out. He kind of doesn't speak to Mark. And then Mark is like,
He's like, did you get a
what?
contract or something? And he's like, listen, we don't need to discuss this anymore. I got what I came for, but book me more shows or interviews. I can stockpile some more money and get out of, your
I need
apartment.
my own place. Yeah.
Yeah.
Back in Ramus's office, Clown appears, and they kind of talk about Jim. He says, Clown says, I got to give you credit. That curtain trick was very effective. You're quite the showman. He says, what's your read on him? And that's where he says, I felt his power. It's getting stronger, and if the costume reaches full potential, if he bonds with it fully, because we know the costume is like weirdly infused with all this demonic power from when Spawn was like ultra powerful or whatever. Blood says he's the catalyst we've been looking for, so that's why we have to get him to come back to us. And who should come into, we cut to Jim hanging out in his little guest room on the couch. Who should come in but Susan, who wants to wish him good night, and he just says, thanks, you too. And then he's just sitting there looking at the briefcase, which is glowing with a little bit of light. He opens it, and he sees inside a photo of him and a woman getting
On his
married
wedding day.
at their wedding day. Yep.
Bum, bum, bum.
And he just says, I'm married. So we have our first clue
to something. This is the most compelling that Jim Downing has been to this point. I didn't care about him as Patient 47. I'm glad that we've kind of gotten away from that. I'm sure it'll come back, but like for now, it doesn't really matter.
Well, we've at least got something for him to do other than just walk around being like, what's going to happen to me next?
I guess we're getting into final thoughts right away. I think that I like the kind of machinations that are happening here, but however, I think I wouldn't have minded all the stuff that we got in the last 16 issues if it was presented in a more like in media res way. If literally, okay, and I'm not trying to like fix these books, but maybe I kind of am. But follow me for a second, okay? If 184, 185, whichever is the one where Al blows his head off, right? He blows his head off, big giant light, whatever.
We cut to like 3 months later, and it's Jim
and it's Jim on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then we backfill everything else and don't tell and just eliminate all the stuff that is like extraneous. Oh my God.
Well, I will say, this is issue 201. Perhaps that is exactly the thought that Todd had, along with Will Carlton, being like, well, look, we don't have to go back and redo what happened. We can start here and give our, exposition, whatever. The thing that I really like here is that we have something for him to be doing. Yeah. He is going to be working for Blood, getting these clues. We know he's going to get clues about himself, and there's going to be action around that, and there's going to be something compelling to happen. There's just a mission statement and a direction here that has yet to really feel like it's been there since we got Jim Downing. And it's just, again, a breath of fresh air. I was just like, thank goodness that we have something that feels, if not perfect, imperfect, but fresh.
Yeah. And also too, all the sort of table setting that those previous issues had done now feels like it was kind of worth it, because at least we do know a bunch of stuff, sort of like at least we know some of the players, and we do know
I think we could have gotten all that information in less issues, but I agree.
Sure. I 100% agree with that. I think the other thing is Kudranski giving the book a really solid visual identity is really, really helping my enjoyment of the book. For Blood to come in as kind of like a new villain with a new artist is also really helping give the book a sense of menace that it was really lacking before. When we were just kind of going through Al's rogues gallery, it was kind of like, okay, like I've seen Violator like a dozen, 100 times at this point, and he looked cool, but it didn't feel great that it was like, and this page is Greg, and this page is Todd, and this page is Eric Larson, and this page is Liefeld. It felt so choppy. This feels propulsive just because it looks
It feels
like,
so much more cohesive.
yeah, it also feels more modern. It feels like instead of Todd doing his best to try and fit more modern storytelling onto art that feels a little bit out of time, it is more modern art like that is suited to the type of storytelling that he's trying to do.
Well, and it occurs to me now, and I'm surprised it didn't occur to me in the moment, that all those issues where they was bringing in Kirkman, Liefeld, blah blah blah, that was around Image United.
Yeah, yeah,
So they were definitely, and I mean, those the 200 ties into that so
totally.
strongly that you see that that's really what he was trying to do is capitalize on that, and I think happen a little bit at Spawn's expense, really.
Yeah,
But that said, this does feel like an actual beginning of a direction. We'll see how long it lasts. We'll see how far it goes. We'll see how well it's handled. But for now, I'm just like, oh, thank you. Thank you for giving us something to latch onto with Jim, somewhere we know where we're going. And also, thank Simon Kudranski et al. For not making Blood a dude with dark hair and a goatee.
yeah. He's got red eyes at least too, so like
And
that's
he
helpful.
turns blue like a vampire.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I also think he gives an interesting dynamic with Clown.
It's a different, I mean, it's a similar one that we've had before with Jason Wynn, but the difference is that he's seemingly more of an equal with Clown because of Clown's kind of position rather than manipulating Wynn to some end that never really fully came to fruition either, you know? So it's a little different, but I think it's still good. And
Yeah,
I think it's at least
they're
interesting.
more they're more co-conspirators than sort of
Right.
foils, really, in a way. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But overall, two
Well,
pretty solid issues, a decent start to a new era for Spawn post 200, right?
brought me back in a way that I'm glad for.
Yeah. Before we go, George, you got any recommendations for our listeners this week?
Yeah, I'll give a recommendation. I was listening to some music last night that was very nostalgic for me, and I'm going to recommend the first two albums by the band Marcy Playground,
Oh,
who
hey,
probably everybody knows from Sex and Candy. Fine song, but the rest of their songs are just fantastic. There's some really excellent music on both of those first couple records. Some very eccentric and like heartfelt kind of pop. And yeah, I was listening to some last night, and at one point that was music that really meant a lot to me. So yeah, go ahead and listen to
word.
that. And you can listen to Sex and Candy. It's a fun song, but like many of those like 90s like one hit alt rock wonders, it's not what most of their music necessarily sounds like.
Cool. I have my recommendations a video game. It came out at the end of last year, but I guess I just didn't get around to it. It had been recommended to me, but I just still didn't get around to it. It's called Dispatch. It's
Okay.
a like superhero workplace comedy. If you like Wolf Among Us, that Telltale game from a few years
Hmm.
ago, based around Fable, or the Batman Telltale games, it has that similar type of dialogue tree affecting sort of the story a bit. And your job is as a former superhero who is trying to, who's like an Iron Man essentially, but has run out of money to fix the suit.
That's fun.
He basically gets recruited to be a superhero dispatcher for corporate superheroes. And he gets
Okay.
saddled with the Z team, who are former supervillains trying to make good,
Oh,
as he tries to avenge his father's death at the hands of the Shroud.
that's pretty
Features
fun.
Aaron Paul as the main character, Robert Robertson,
Okay.
and Jeffrey Wright as the speedster formerly known as Trackstar.
Okay.
Uh, Very fun.
That's
Honestly,
fun.
I played through it I played it like all day Saturday and finished it this morning, and it's awesome. And I immediately started a new game to like make different choices and see how it affects the game, and the dispatching part is actually fun. It's not like a stupid mini game. I was like looking forward to like all right, get me through like the interpersonal relationship stuff that is really well written and really, really fun. But I want to get to the sort of dispatching and saving the city, and because that stuff's really fun too. So your like characters level up over the course of it and everything too. So yeah, super
Well,
fun.
it's very fun.
Yeah, obviously we both recommend the Odyssey as well.
Yes,
because
definitely see it.
at this point it's now been out for, it's August now. So as this comes out, so figure it out.
Yeah.
Go see it. I'm sure it's still in theaters somewhere. So anyway, if you like the show, please rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. We really appreciate it. We don't do ads or anything. So, the only way people hear about us is if you tell them. So tell your friends, share our posts on Instagram if you find us at Spawnography. If you want to send us an email, tell us we got something wrong or that we have a dumb opinion about something or a great one, send us an email, spawnographypod@gmail.com. We'll read it on the air, of course. And George, for Todd so loved the world,
He gave his only begotten spawn.
see you later, Hellspawn. Spawnography is recorded in Athens, Georgia, and Queens, New York. It's produced by me, Pierce Lyden. Our theme music and logo were composed by George Marston. Episodes come out every Monday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like the show, please rate, review, subscribe. You can find us on social media at Spawnography or at SpawnographyPod. If you'd like to reach out to us directly, you can do so at spawnographypod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and until next time, see you later, Hellspawn.